Hello and welcome to the fourth MLT tournament. This time around the budget has been 5000p and we have gotten quite a lot of submissions. We have a total of 11 submissions. The rules are as stated with a 15,000 arena size and resources on. So, the first submission is Amma Vetera Thankia by Laps. It's a fleet of 3 identical ships, all from the faction Veterans Challenge. They are mostly armed with twin cannons and some lasers for point defense. The next one is Burning Avatar by None for Deuce. It's a quite large obsidian, sporting 2 large magma launchers. This will be deadly against any other obsidians. After that comes He Thick by MGV, which is a huge obsidian made out of a massive amount of the largest octagons he could find. It's unlikely anyone will break through, but maybe None for Deuce will with his magma launchers. Then we have Legion by Skill. An absolutely horrendous fleet made out of a total of 545 ships. This will be quite annoying for any fleet. It's mostly laser ships, with some being some sort of cannon ships. I believe explosive cannon. After that is Obsidian is Unbalanced by Prototype. A very heavily armored obsidian made out of almost completely obsidian. Not the dense obsidian, but normal obsidian. It is very heavy and very durable, but it lacks in terms of damage. Then comes Raid Shadow Legends by Wowie, which is a fleet of 25 cruise missile ships from the faction True Terrans. Then we have Zbinala by ZFall99, which is a spinal mounts submission, which is a fleet of railgun crafts, perfectly balanced, so that they can only need a single side thruster for strafing. Then we have This Is a Test, Please Stand by Owl Feathers, which is a spinal mount fleet too, which has 2 railgun frigates with the largest railguns and a bunch of gunships using the cannons. After that is 3 Billy Goats Graph by Reno, which is a fleet of 12 ships with 1 so-called big ship, 3 medium ships and 8 small. The big one is armed with cannons and Gatling guns. Then we have Web Ambush by Exterp, again with spinal mounts, which has 2 master webs with the largest railguns, 2 shotgun webs, a bit unsure what it has, a veteran web and some elite webs. The elite webs are completely armor plus, so they are deceivingly durable. Or deceivingly fragile, but actually very durable. Then we have Yeeter by Dill, which is once again obsidian, but it's quite speedy due to the fact it's over 50% thrusters. But it's actually using a little chunk of dense obsidian over its core. So, without further ado, let's start. So, first up we have Laps versus None for Deuce. We'll see how Veterans Challenge can deal with those magma launchers. The magma cannons, I forgot to mention those. This craft also has magma cannons, which are very heavy in terms of damage. We can see here None for Deuce is creating a large amount of magma around itself as protection against any sort of swarm. Sadly enough, the magma cannons do not have enough range. but the magma launcher spread is doing quite some damage to these fragile Veterans Challenge ships. Oh, one of them has been broken. Only one ship from Laps is left. Hopefully... No, that was the end. You have to watch out to not crash into these huge chunks of bullets flying around, since each of those have a lot of damage. The last Veterans Challenge ship is taking very heavy damage and then blowing up. Now we have Laps versus MGV with Heathick. It's a very massive obsidian submission, but it lacks the ability to turn. But just the sheer range of that massive mineral cannon, well, it's not actually the massive one, but it's big. Yeah, it's dangerous. Here, sadly, these Veterans Challenge ships not based around defense simply break. Now we have Veterans Challenge versus Veterans Challenge. Surprisingly enough, the computer is not dying, even though I am using 120 physics updates per second. It seems like Laps is completely unable to deal with this swarm with the big guns of his. So the first round goes to Legion. If Laps would have not had this nasty chain reaction and maybe some more shields, he could possibly have survived this. But yeah, those huge generators, they blow up severely. Now we have Laps versus Prototype. Now let's see how durable this tiny obsidian is. As you can see, it's quite small, but that's deceiving. These blocks are extremely durable. But as mentioned, Prototype really lacks the damage needed to break anything, as you can see. Well, it broke one, but well, I guess it can tank out the damage from the Veterans Challenge ships, so it might be fine. But again, that horrible chain reaction. Laps, try to place those generators a bit differently. Oh, the last one is taking some range, doing something smart, since Prototype's weapons have short range. Technically, Laps can still win on points due to the fact he started out with a lot of points. Laps is mostly unable to take any more points from Prototype, unless he manages to destroy that large magma chamber. Oh, he did. That's a loss to Prototype. Prototype's construction is a bit fragile with that magma chamber being a very vital structural component. The first round goes to Labs. Keep in mind, the blocks prototype is made out of are the second most durable blocks from obsidian. So it's not surprising they hold up as well as they do. Now Labs should probably back off again, something he didn't, so the second round goes to prototype. Now Labs, back off. I'm not sure what triggered the ship to back off last time. But it wasn't triggered now. So the win went to prototype. Now we have Labs versus Wowie and these cruise missiles. Labs tried with those lasers, but yeah, 50 P worth of Veterans Challenge lasers is not enough to beat 3000 P of cruise missiles. It was a quick win to Wowie. Now we have Zeofall versus Labs. His railguns are quite piercing versus Labs' fragile structure. The win was quick. Now the second round. Now we have Labs versus Alfeathers. Spinal mounts again. It's just... it's carnage. There isn't anything more to say about it. I'm not sure Veterans Challenge has any proper way to hold up at these P ranges. I may have to see about possibly giving them an even larger boost of P. The win went to Alfeathers. Now we have Reno versus Labs. As we can see here, the large Gatling guns are very quick at their job, and they just cut through the cardboard-like armor Veterans Challenge has. The win went to Reno. Now we have Labs versus Exderp. Spinal mount again. Spinal mounts seem to be a favorite for many people. The massive railguns simply cut through the whole hull of the ship, And that was the end of the first round. Oh, Laps managed to take out one of the railgun ships, I believe. Oh, the last ship, yeah, it's dead. The win went to Exterp. Now we have Dill versus Laps. Now let's see if Dill's creation. Those crystals went straight through, while the magma launchers went straight through as well. We can see the crystals going through. The first round goes to Dill. But we did see Laps do some work. Laps really shouldn't go into melee range. Those blobs of magma are deadly. But Dill has disintegrated. So there is a chance Laps is dealing with those crystals right now. I am not sure what Laps is doing. Oh, Dill has no more weapons, so only the point defense is trying to do damage. AI is kind of dumb like that. The core from Dill is embedded completely in dense obsidian, so it will be very difficult to try to break it. Dense obsidian is the most durable obsidian armor. Oh, a crystal tried something there, didn't work. Oh, I didn't notice the magma there. Now we have the two obsidians versus each other. Non-Forduce versus MGV. Now let's see if the large mineral cannon, I believe those are actually called the powerful ones, or if the magma launchers win. Oh, the magma launcher missed there. And Non-Forduce is disintegrating. The construction doesn't seem to be very durable. Oh, the magma launchers are doing some damage. But it's not sure Non-Forduce will be able to survive long enough to see the effects, and he didn't. The first round went to MGV. Oh, that might be a perfect magma shot. Look there, it goes straight through. MGV has sustained severe damage, but it's not sure the last magma will get to his core before Non-Forduce is gone. Non-Forduce has sustained severe damage, and now his core is exposed. A single... Oh, but MGV is running into the magma, but Non-Forduce was taken out first. So the win went to MGV. Now we have the massive Legion by skill, Veterans Challenge, And let's see if those magma launchers will be able to protect the obsidian from this giant swarm. Legion is the largest fleet we have seen yet. We can see the tiny ships popping continuously while trying to go through the yeah. Most of Skill's fleet is already taken out completely. Just the sheer amount of fragments has been enough to take out most. It seems like the small ships are not smart enough to try to dodge. Only a few fleet ships are left, with non-produce not having taken any significant amount of damage. And no ships left. So the first round went to non-produce. His magma launchers proved very useful in taking out the vast majority of the ships. Here you can see the largest blob just kind of leaving nothing behind. Again, the fleet is not able at all to do the amount of damage it should do. The damage is too spread out and the lasers are not an effective enough damage dealer. The magma cannons are also doing some work, as we can see. They are often taking out multiple enemies with each shot. The timer is about to run out. And the win goes to non-produce. Oh, now we have non-produced versus prototype. Let's see how Obsidian can hold up to these large magma launchers. Most likely the weak point will be those magma chambers on prototype ships. The magma cannons are also doing a fair bit of work. They are actually quite damaging. Non-Produce is unable to aim properly with his magma launchers. And it seems like... Oh, Prototype has actually lost a big part of his front. It appears like the fight is actually quite close, but the core is exposed. So the first round went to non-produce. The weakness on prototype ship with those magma chambers were simply a too big, well, weakness. Well, that was a quick kill. Now we have Wowie versus non-produce. With his large amount of cruise missiles, he might be able to do a fair bit of damage. The frontmost front from non-produce is already gone. Due to the fact non-produce is a stacked ship, the splash from the cruise missiles is very effective. However, Wowie has lost a few ships to the large field of bullets made by the magma launchers. Non-produce is continuously losing armor, and he's currently losing on points. Hopefully for him, those large central blocks, like those large octagons, will hold up against the cruise missiles. The field of magma is also very useful as defense against all kinds of missiles. As you can see, most of them don't get through. None actually. Non-produce is currently repairing. But Wowie still won on points. The first round goes to him. Due to non-produced orientation, Wowie is this time around attacking from the side. It's weaker and has more central structural components than the front. The damage on non-produced ship is now more spread out than it was at the start. Oh, non-produced shed a block. Very interesting. I somehow didn't notice that multiple blocks were shedded earlier. I guess that confirms my notion of the sides having more structural blocks than the front. Wowie has not lost a single ship this time around. Oh, non-produced lost another quite structural component and lost a big chunk of his side and a thruster stack. Wowie won once again. The win goes to him. Now we have non-produced versus Spinala by Z-Fall. Now we'll see if those magma launchers can deal with Z-Fall's swarm as well as they did against the VC swarm. Maybe a bit negatively, non-produced is running away from the magma field created by him. But this new one might be... oh! The Spinala ships are up against the wall. They were at least, and they are now being showered by the remnants of the magma cloud. Non-produced is currently in a quite bad position, with one of these Spinalas almost dying there. Currently non-produced is leading quite a lot on points, so unless non-produced loses some quite structural components, he will most likely win. We can see some Spinalas are stuck in the cloud of magma and obsidian. Yes, these purple ones are cooled down magma, so yeah, obsidian. And they may sustain some damage. They are trying to get through, but it's dangerous. As you can see there, severe damage is being done. The timer ran out and non-produced went out with the win. Some ships are being lost from Z-Fall side. Again, due to being stuck inside these clouds of magma and obsidian. The magma launchers are proving to be very useful against swarms, as we saw against the skill swarm and against Z-Fall. The main clouds are currently going towards the main fleet from Z-Fall, so that will give some defense against that swarm. Some ships are being lost again while they are flying through this large cloud. It's really risky to go through this cloud. They shouldn't do this, but they are. Even though the Spinala has mostly hull made out of armor plus, it's still lethal. And the win goes to Burning Avatar by Non-Produce. Now we have Owl Feathers versus Non-Produce with his Spile Mounts fleet again. We'll see if those large railguns can do some work. The main ships seem to not really want to point at the enemy consistently. It's almost as if they are trying to dodge without anything to dodge. You may have some thruster issues there. One of the gunships were ejected from the battlefield. Quickly regenerating though. Spinal mounts regenerate quite quickly. Currently Non-Produce is leading on points. This is showing that swarms are counterable by Obsidian, even though Obsidian is this slow and has no fast weapons. Except for the lasers, but they are not turreted. Non-Produce has fully regenerated and the battle is over with the first round going to Non-Produce. The gunships are using the explosive cannons and they are proving ineffective against the large armor blocks Non-Produce has. Non-Produce has taken some damage, but he has not lost a single functional component. And he's still leading on points by 500 points. Non-Produce is currently in a bad spot, and the magma cannons are proving ineffective with how fast Owlfeather's ships are. But the win still goes to Non-Produce. Now we have Non-Produce versus Reno. True Terran versus Obsidian. We'll see how this goes. Reno has some missiles and his main ship is going straight through into that deadly massive amount of magma. It's not surviving. That was a very bad decision to do. It lacked any sort of backwards thrust, and yeah, it led to that. Now the rest of the main ship is being burned away. There are slim chances for Reno to win at this point. It's impossible, I would say. Most of Reno's points went into that main ship. The first round goes to Non-Produce. Let's hope that doesn't repeat itself again. We can see Reno going straight for another blob of magma. This is not good. And that was the end. This match is most likely sealed. win goes to non-produce. Now we have non-produce versus exturb. Oh, one of the ships from exturb went straight through those magma cannon shots and was evaporated. Exturb is losing ships here. They should probably try to stay at range, but they aren't. This is a very bad outcome for exturb. The first round goes to non-produce. Exturb was not able to do enough damage, and non-produce took out over half of the ships. Exturb's ships also seem to not really want to try to kite, which is also very bad. We can see some of Exturb's ships being hit by magma cannons and then driving straight into them. Non-Forduce has proven that obsidian is very useful against most kinds of enemies actually, if built right. Now we have Obsidian versus Obsidian again, with Yeeter from Dill and Burning Avatar from Non-Produce. Dill has those crystals which might be useful, if just as distractions, but they may also do some damage. Dill has already lost most of his ship. It's unlikely that he will last long. At most he might survive with that dense obsidian covered core. As you can see, that little this is all dense obsidian, that which remains. But the core was taken out by Splash, so the armor didn't help with that. Dill's construction is very fragile, which is why the ship just falls apart. The thrusters do not connect to each other, so you need a solid frame around. They don't work as structural components. That was a quick kill. Now we have MGV versus Skill, and MGV has no magma launchers. He does have those magma cannons and those volcanic vents, so he might be able to stop the Legion, but not as effectively as Non-Forduce. But those volcanic vents, as we see, yeah, they deal with these small swarm ships very well. He also has a large amount of weakened mineral cannons all around his ships, but sadly they are not set to point defense, so they do not target independently. Most of Skill's fleet has been lost already, with MGV taking a surprising amount of point loss actually. I didn't expect to see such an amount of points being lost from such a huge amount of armor. The first round goes to MGV. MGV simply needs to sit there and look at his enemies either crash into the volcanic vent ejecta or get killed by his multitude of cannons. The powerful mineral cannon is sadly enough not very useful this round, partly due to its slow rotational speed and partly due to the fact it's a very large weapon with not a very high rate of fire. The win goes to MGV. Now we have MGV versus Prototype, and I expect we'll see that powerful mineral cannon to do quite a lot of work on these obsidian blocks due to its immense power. The crystals were simply shrugged off. Prototype is taking a lot of damage and he has lost one of his frontal arms. The child ship is being ignored, but I don't expect it to affect the results a lot. The magma chamber was taken out, exposing the core, and the core was taken out. We can see Prototype taking a very large amount of damage again. Obsidian might be very powerful compared to pretty much any other faction on the workshop, but it can't take infinite amount of damage. Now we have Wowie versus MGV, and I do not expect MGV to do much versus Wowie, but I don't expect Wowie to do a lot versus MGV either. Due to the fact MGV is almost purely made out of massive octagons, scale 10. These are asteroid-sized octagons with a lot more durability than asteroids. The crystals are running after Wowie's ships, trying to do something, but they are too slow to be able to hit. But MGV will most likely lose some points due to the fact MGV cannot deal any damage back. Oh, the crystals actually took out the ship, changing the situation a bit. It actually looks like the crystals are being effective as anti-kiter weapons. This is interesting. Oh, yeah, the ships are being thrown against the wall and then ejected into the crystals, being instantly removed from this game. Yeah, again. These are very surprising news. Crystals are effective against tiny ships. Huh, okay. It seems like the situation was completely turned around, and Wowie will now lose some points. Unless something unexpected happens. One more ship taken out. The first round goes to MGV. Due to seeing these results, we'll most likely see more crystals in the future. Since the ability to take out tiny ships, kiters, from afar with high speed. For an obsidian is a very useful feature. Negatively for MGV, we are not really seeing the same thing happen to the same degree. Only one ship has been lost on Huawei's side, but MGV is still leading on points. If the crystals don't hit any more ships until the timer runs out, MGV will probably... No, MGV wins on points anyways. So, here we can see kiters do not necessarily win versus tanks. Now we have Spinala versus versus MGV. I'm kind of mixing up things now. So this is a bit of a different fleet. It's using railguns instead of missiles, and it's spinal mounts. One ship has been lost. The ships seem to not be smart enough to stay away from those magma cannons. They are very dangerous and should never be approached. And we can see some of them also kind of suiciding into these magma vents. Proving useful, these small semi-volcanoes. MGV has not really taken any damage, while Z-Fall has lost multiple ships. Here, one was stuck inside here somehow, and it was taken out. Another one was also shot down. Z-Fall seems to have issues dodging, even though the obsidian weapons are quite slow. MGV is currently standing completely still, seeing no reason to move, which is fair. Another ship from Z-Fall died. I think it killed itself on this crystal. The crystals have melee, so ramming them is not advised. Another ship ran into the bullets from the volcanic vents. It might also be that these crystals are very nice distractors, making the ships run away from them and into the main ship. They are kind of shaking things up a bit. Z-Fall is not taking a lot of action to actually avoid these, so they are continuously doing damage to various ships. Z-Fall has already lost 1/4 of his whole fleet. It is impossible for him to recoup those points lost. Z-Fall has no way to win at this point, losing over half of his points. Again, proving Obsidian can be versatile. The current leader of this tournament is non-produce. Now we have Owl Feathers versus MGV. Now we'll see if this Spiromount fleet can work. It is utilizing the cannons and large railguns. Well, the small ships do actually have some extra ships in addition. The smaller guns are just to kind of decide at which range the ships should stay. MGV is leading on points by far. We can also see here that both of these fleets have very similar color schemes. So we see green bullets versus green bullets and grey hull versus grey hull. MGV has not sustained any considerable damage yet. Owl Feathers has lost about half of his fleet. And the win goes to MGV for the first round. The crystals are being a bit confused, making them end up ramming the mothership. However, due to there being no friendly fire in reassembly, they do not do any damage. Currently MGV is leading on points, and it doesn't look like the situation will change. Owl Feathers is simply unable to deal the amount of damage needed, and his ships are dying too much. The win goes to MGV. Now we have MGV versus Reno. Now let's see if the fate of the main ship will be different from last time. We can see Reno's tiny mini ships flying around, with the main ship finally approaching. But I'm afraid the main ship won't be able to sustain the damage once it is being targeted, which is now. Those magma cannons and the main cannon are a deadly combo, quickly dealing with the main ship. It simply lacks the armor needed. The He-Thick ship is just pushing away the main ship as if it's nothing. That is how heavy obsidians are. But with the loss of the main ship, Reno's fleet has lost all but nothing of his points, so the probability of success for Reno right now is very non-existent. And yes, this is what I was talking about. MGV does technically have turning thrust, but it doesn't seem like the ship is really bothering with trying to use it. Well, the ship is using a crystal and a single thruster over here to turn. Not sure that one is intentional, but other than that, nothing. So it simply ended up turning its back to the enemy. You can see the crystals trying to hit, but the point defense on Reno's ships are... It is being effective at pushing the crystals away, which is the intentional function of this point defense. But the lead on points was devastating. Now we can see the main ship trying to do some damage again. It is now being targeted, which is very bad. Again, the main ship is just being pushed away as if it's nothing. It's not really affecting the speed at all. Not that the Obsidian has a lot of speed to begin with. And these last 3 missile ships are not able to do anything useful. Especially not against this very heavy armor. Cruise missiles are powerful, but they are not powerful enough to deal with larger blocks like that. Only with normal ships from normal factions. And the win goes to MGV. Now we have Exterp versus NGV. Exterp has been very successful in previous tournaments, however he has not done very well against these Obsidians. Exterp has already lost 2 ships, soon to be the 3rd, I assume. A 3rd ship has been lost. Even with 4 large railguns firing at it, MGV's ship is not really buckling. Exterp has lost a lot more ship points than MGV, so it's unlikely that Exterp will be able to turn the table. MGV is once again just standing still, seeing no purpose in moving around. Exterp has already lost more than 1000 points. The ships are sometimes ramming into the volcanic vents, or they are ramming into the crystals on the ship, or they are being hit by the magma cannons or main cannon. Also, these small cannons do help a bit, but their impact is not high enough to take out ships alone. Oh, that ship over there managed to survive a whole bullet from the main cannon. That's only because it's made completely out of armor plus, which is very durable. Exturb has lost on points and the win goes to MGV. Now we have MGV versus Dill. The size difference is apparent, and I do honestly not expect Dill to survive this amount of damage. He's being bombarded by volcanic vents, and yeah, the core was taken out by Splash. The dense obsidian block itself did not break. The current leader is MGV. Now we have Legion by skill versus Obsidian is unbalanced by prototype. We can see the I believe these are rapid fire mineral cannons. I'm not completely sure of their name, but they are at least shoot quickly, and they are kind of effective against this swarm. We can see prototype losing some points. But the swarm is being stupid and not bunching around the prototype. Something I have noticed in tournament mode is that it seems like the AI becomes dumber the more ships there are in the tournament. So as you can see here, many of these ships, they are not really, just look at it, they are not really trying, I will say. And that's the issue. If all 500 ships will fire at prototype all at once, it will probably drain prototype of health very quickly. Prototype has lost his whole back section, which includes his two large rapid fire mineral cannons. So his damage is now non-existent. he now has issues taking out a single Legion ship. The first round went to Skill. He won on points. Prototype has now lost most of his thrusters, and his back magma chamber is taking damage. And the win goes to Skill, based on points. Now we have Skill versus Wowie. Wowie has the cruise missiles, but it's possible that Skill has enough ships to distract for forever. But the cruise missiles are very effective at hitting targets. As we see here, they have a 100% rate of success at hitting targets. But some of Wowie's ships are now being shot at. And ships are being lost. With enough lasers, even VC can win against swarms. But most of Skill's fleet has been lost already, and Wowie is keeping most of his ships, so it seems like it will be a win to Wowie. So the first round went to Wowie. The cruise missiles are simply too effective at hitting small moving targets. So Skill is pretty much losing ships as quickly as Wowie can fire missiles. But multiple of Wowie's ships are taking damage right now. not firing missiles anymore. But Skill has already lost the majority of his fleet, so a win to Skill is unlikely. Only a small portion of Skill's fleet is remaining, and it's very quickly being removed from the fight. So the win goes to Aoi. Now we have Skill versus Zfall with his Zbinala. The best bet for Zfall is to be able to take out multiple ships in each shot. Or else Zfall simply doesn't even have enough bullets to take out enough ships to win on points. And we can see Zfall is taking severe amount of damage. Zfall has already lost 1/4 of his fleet, while Skill has lost much less than that. Skill's fleet is being successful at taking out Zfall's ships. The lasers have been useful. Only 4 ships from Zfall's fleet remain. 3 ships. 2 ships. And the first round goes to Skill. Oh, some of Zfall's ships ran into the swarm and very quickly got taken out. Less than half of Zfall's fleet remain. The camera is trying to follow the fast ships, but it's having difficulties. So that win went to skill. Now we have skill versus owl feathers. This is again against spinal mounts, but this time around the spinal mounts fleet is having a lot more diverse crafts. But Owl Feathers is not using a lot of armor plus, which is probably why his crafts are breaking so fast. This time around, skill has lost a considerable amount of ships. While Owl Feathers is actually holding up quite well. It appears that Owl Feathers will win on points. Skill's fleet has been severely reduced. And the first round goes to Owl Feathers. This time Owl Feathers has been losing ships a bit faster than last time, so he's not holding up quite as well. But his main ships are durable enough so that skill is quite unable to get through his armor. It seems like one of his ships did sustain some damage, but it's being quickly repaired once Feathers gets a small chance to repair. But it was a point win to skill. As you can see, the initial burst of lasers when the Feather ships drive straight into the swarm. It is very dangerous. Feathers is closing in terms of points, having taken out most of Skill's fleet, but most likely the time remaining is not enough to be able to overcome Skill's point gap. And the win goes to Skill. Now we have Skill versus Reno. I am a bit curious as to how this main ship will be able to handle Skill's fleet. It seems to be able to handle it all well initially, but the Gatling guns do not fire all the time. While the cruise missiles are doing a lot of work, but there are simply not enough of them, and the cruise missile ships are moving into the swarm, taking some damage. But something to note, Reno's very thick armor is way too thick for Skill's fleet to be able to get through. So as you can see, it's taking out the half blocks like the long triangles, but Skill will not be able to get through that armor. Reno has lost most of his fleet, except for a single cruise missile craft and his main ship. But it is possible Reno may win on points. Actually, Skill already has less points than Reno. So Reno will win on points. The first round goes to Reno as the rest of Skill's fleet explodes. Reno does seem like you will win on points. It seems like the Gatling guns are fast enough to be able to take out enough ships before the round ends to win on points. So, the win goes to Reno. Now we have skill versus exterp. The first exterp ship is instantly going into the swarm, being deleted by the massive amount of lasers. Exterp seems to lose points at a faster rate than skill does. So it's not likely Exterp will win, sadly. Skill's fleet seems to be effective against some fleets. However, Exterp's ships are too durable for skill to get through the larger ones. The first round goes to skill. Exterp is losing points too rapidly and not dealing them out quickly enough to win. Exterp does have very powerful weapons, like those massive railguns, but they are too focused and slow damage. The thing here is that you need to deal with hundreds of ships instead of a few large ones. Something Exterp cannot do. The outcome might have been different if Exterp would have covered his ships in burst plating, which is a kind of plating spine mounts has, which fires a lot of bullets when anything is in front. Then his ships could possibly have just flied through the Legion fleet, taking all of them out. So, the win goes to skill. Now we have skill versus deal. I am not sure what my expectations here should be. Skill lacks any form of splash. So if skill manages to disassemble Dale, he will have to get through that dense obsidian core, which will be hard. We can see that Dale's weak general structure is falling apart. The first round went to skill. Due to the fact Dill has no effective way of dealing with them except for these magma launchers, but they are not really large enough magma launchers to deal with them. Dill has already lost a large section of his ship. The core section is being damaged right now. But skill is unable to give focused enough damage to get through any of these big blocks. Even though a whole large section just fell off due to the frame being broken. Dill is losing on points, and this means the win goes to skill. Now we have Prototype versus Wowie, and Prototype has not a single way to deal with Wowie's cruise missiles. So yeah, the cruise missiles already went through the large magma chamber, and Prototype's ship is already just a field of debris, and there is not much more to say about this. It kind of fell apart, and the first round went to Wowie. Again, using those magma chambers as structural components was really not a good call, since they are very fragile for their size. Oh, luckily the magma chamber broke anyways. So the win goes to Wowie. It was quite quick to be an obsidian fight. Now we have Prototype versus E-Fall. Prototype has not a single way to deal with Z-Fall's kiters, so I'm expecting this battle to be very one-sided. Prototype has not lost anything vital yet. Well, he is taking damage to his thrusters, but other than that, nothing mentionable. Prototype is good at absorbing all of this damage without losing anything important, but he is completely unable to deal the damage back. But I must say, Prototype's choice of design is very interesting. Previously to this, I was actually not expecting anyone to even build a ship completely out of obsidian stone, and maybe use a few rare blocks of obsidian. But here Prototype comes along and builds his complete ship out of obsidian. Again, this was very unexpected, and as a defensive measure, it seems to be extremely effective, making him invulnerable to almost everything, except, magma cannons and magma launchers, which are both very powerful weapons. Prototype was showing his back, which was not a good choice, and he has now lost his backsides and his back. By backsides I mean these, side things. And those two also contain his main weapons, so that's bad. Prototype is unable to do anything right now, and he's just waiting for the match to end, which will be a loss. Oh, another magma chamber was lost, and the win goes to Z4. Now we have Prototype versus Owlfeathers. Owlfeathers has a very diverse fleet with, not very, but more diverse, with a lot of explosive cannons and 2 large railguns. Prototype is taking a lot of general damage, and he just lost his back magma chamber. making him fall apart again. We can see Prototype is having severe issues. Yeah, I'm not sure he will win this round. I'm afraid his middle magma chamber will break soon. Which it has. And his core is now kind of exposed. The point win goes to Owl Feathers. Prototype was not able to do anything useful this round. Prototype lost his main weapons again, which is a negative. But other than that, he's holding up acceptably. He lost his middle magma chamber, which leaves his core exposed. It is now taking damage, which is very bad. I believe a single bullet is what is needed left for the core to explode. A large railgun was pointed at the core, but the obsidian right beside the core absorbed all of the railgun shots, and that single bullet took it out. So the win went to Owl Feathers. Now we have Reno versus Prototype. Finally a fight Reno might be useful at, due to the fact Prototype does not have any devastating massive weapons, in contradiction to what all the other obsidians had. As you can see here, Reno is able to dish out a lot of damage. A prototype is currently exposed at the back, and that was very bad, taking prototype out very quickly. And the win goes to Reno. Exactly the same thing happened, once again. Now we have Prototype versus Exterp. Exterp has the kind of fleet Prototype has no way to deal with. The crafts are too durable to be taken out by pure luck, and they are fast enough to avoid most of the damage. Exterp's ships are very erratic. They are not really kiting as they should, and they are not using their weapons to the maximum. Luckily for Prototype, he has not lost any magma chambers yet, but it seems like he will lose some points. And the first round goes to Exterp. We can see the child ship being harassed. It is unlikely that it will be able to grow up, something it didn't. Since these large, very large magma chambers need to grow up before anything else can grow. So that's kind of an issue with having magma chambers as structural components too. The child ships have very large difficulties growing up. The back magma chamber was broken, again leaving prototype weaponless. And the win went to Exterp. On points. Now we have prototype versus Dill. Two crafts kind of similar in ability. Both mostly lack weapons, with Dill having a lot more magma launchers, but both are mostly weaponless, yes, and quite durable at the core at least, with big structural issues, Dill having his fragile frame and Prototype having his fragile structural magma chambers. But Dill has that dense obsidian core section, which Prototype most likely won't be able to break. Here we can see a crystal has broken through Prototype's two magma chambers, leaving Prototype with almost nothing left but a magma launcher, which is trying to break that dense obsidian block, but it doesn't seem like it's happening. Again, dense obsidian is very durable. Takes a lot to break that block. But this fight is quite close, as you can see. So here we can see the debris field. Oh, Prototype's child ship is growing up. But yeah, this large debris field of two obsidians. Oh, Dill is managing to grow up. Well, it's a point win to Prototype for the first round. Dill has fallen apart. Unless one of those crystals once again break the magma chambers, Prototype will lead on points. Dill is taking a fair bit of damage from that magma launcher and those rapid fire cannons, mineral cannons, but the The dense obsidian is completely unyielding. I'm not sure it has even started to smoke. That block should break after a while. Yeah, well, this was an interesting fight. But the win went to prototype again. Now we have Raid Shadow Legends by Huawei versus Binala from Z-Fall. The cruise missiles are very accurate and very good at hitting, so Z-Fall's speed won't help much. It's not worth trying to dodge cruise missiles. You need point defense or something similar to deal with them. So Huawei's fleet is proving effective. Now we have Alphedrus versus Huawei, and I expect something similar to happen, with the cruise missiles hitting. Only the main ships from Alphedrus remain, and they are taking heavy damage. And they have been taken out. The first round goes to Huawei. Alphedrus did not bring any burst plating, which works at point defense, or any spaced armor to try to at least partly counter these missiles. The win goes to Huawei. Now we have Huawei versus Reno. We'll see how the True Terran submission will do against this missile spam. Reno does have some point defense, but those point defenses are not really made versus this amount of missiles and this speed. So you can see Reno is taking severe damage. And this is with his fleet ships still distracting most of the missiles. This is very bad for Reno. The missiles are getting through the armor. Luckily the frontal armor is being used now. Oh no, now the craft is falling apart and it exploded. Reno does have that point defense drone thing, which is supposed to take out missiles like these, but he does not have enough of them. Reno is currently taking severe damage from the back, losing a large amount of thrusters. He has now lost control over his movement. And the win goes to Aoi. Oh no. Exderp is not made to tank damage. He does have some spaced armor, at least blocking the damage for a little while. But it will break. It will definitely break. So the first round goes to Aoi. The win goes to Aoi. Now we have Aoi versus Dill. And I can't see Dill winning this one. He has no point defense. And his core is quite exposed. He has no shields, even though Obsidian does have shields. And that core will be broken by the splash. And the win goes to Aoi. Now we have Zbinala by Zfall versus This Is a Test, Please Stand By Owlfeathers. For now, Owlfeathers is winning. He is actually winning overwhelmingly. Owlfeathers has not lost a single ship. And Zfall is at a complete loss. Owlfeathers has lost 800 points, but it's nothing to talk of. It's not an issue. He has not lost a single craft. That's very good anti-spinal mounts performance. I assume this splash from these cannons is what is helping, since it's instantly popping the generator on Z-Fall and damaging the core. While Z-Fall only has piercing weaponry, which doesn't get through the armor of Owlfeathers. We can see Alfeathers leading completely again. Z-Fall only has 3 ships left. And that's a complete win to Alfeathers. Now we have Z-Fall versus Reno. We'll see if Reno will be able to deal with Z-Fall. The best bet is for the cruise missile crafts to survive long enough to deal with at least some of Z-Fall's crafts. The cruise missiles are very powerful weapons versus nimble opponents like these. We can see Z-Fall has lost about half of his fleet, losing on points. This is mostly thanks to the cruise missiles. The main ship has not helped very much this time around. It might actually have been a good idea to just place the missile launchers on the main ship itself, where they would have been safe. Only one ship remains. And no more. The first round goes to Reno. It seems that Reno has lost one of his cruise missile ships, and all but one of the distractors. We can see up there the cruise missiles did kind of have issues hitting the Spinalas, but they hit in the end. So I guess a sufficiently fast ship can dodge cruise missiles, but it's not a good thing to rely on. Oh, a ship was very quickly dealt with by the main ship. Only one ship remains, and no more. Now we have Zfall versus Exterp. Two fleets from the same faction. Now we'll see which fleet wins. Exterp does have cannons, which are very useful against spinal mounts due to the fact spinal mounts has no shielding. So a single cannon shot will harm all of the craft on Z-Fold ships, and it will instantly break that one little generator. We can see that Exterp is leading very well. His small crafts, as mentioned earlier, are made completely out of armor plus, probably why Z-Fall is completely unable to swat them down with a single railgun shot. And Exterp's crafts are simply able to repair between shots. So Z-Fall has less than half of the points Exterp has left. And the point win goes to Exterp for the first round. Exterp is leading again on points, but not as much as last time. The point win goes to Exterp. His Spinal Mount fleet simply seems to be better against Spinal Mounts. Now we have Z-Fold versus Dill. Again, like with the previous Swarm encounters, Dill doesn't seem to have effective countermeasures. So I'm not sure Dill can do very much here. Dill lost a large part of his frame. By frame I mean that really thin and fragile line of rock triangles going through his ship, holding it all together. Frames are usually durable, but that's not the case here. On a note, the orientation and setup Dill uses for his thrusters is actually the intended way to set up the hexagon thrusters, but it's not usually the preferred one when you want a single directional speed. But it is the most durable setup if you use a hexagonal hull. The core section is now quite exposed, and Z-Fall is leading on points, something which is unlikely to change with Dill's current situation. And the first round goes to Z-Fall with his Spinala. No, one of the Z-Fall's ships directly rammed one of the crystals, which wasn't a good idea. And another ship just ran through a blob of magma here, through that one. Wasn't very nice, that either. He has lost 400 points due to those two cases. Dill is not in a good situation right now, and Z-Fall has lost 0 ships, but 1,000 points. Almost only the core section remains, And the time is running out. It's a point win to Z4. Now we have Reno versus Owl Feathers. Spiral Mounts versus True Terran. We'll see. Owl Feathers needs to take out those cruise missile crafts. They are a big issue. Reno has 3 of them, and they are slowly taking out Owl Feathers ships. Reno is currently leading on points, but only 1 cruise missile ship remains. No cruise missile ships remain. So things might change now. Due to the fact the main ship is unable to reliably hit the fast ships. That railgun ship is staying dangerously close. The first round goes to Reno, on points. If Owl Feathers can deal with those cruise missile crafts quickly enough, he might win. I think only 1 cruise missile craft remains actually. Only the main ship remains now, and that's bad news for Reno, since now the whole fleet from Owl Feathers will be able to focus on a single ship. Alfeathers leads on points this time, so he will probably get a win, with Reno almost dying due to damage. The cruise missile craft seem to be quickly dealt with again. None of them remain, so only the main ship and, well, I guess the distractors, but mainly the main ship remains to be dealt with. Reno is sustaining severe damage, with his outer hull now being cracked. His generators are exposed. And he's gone. Now we have Alfeathers versus Exderp. Spinal Mounts versus Spinal Mounts. Alfeathers has, for now, done quite well versus Spinal Mounts, so we'll see if he will do it again. Both fleets here have cannons, with Exderp's ships usually being larger than Alfeathers' ships, so they have a better defense against explosions than what Alfeathers has. That is probably why Alfeathers is losing ships right now, since the splash is getting to his cores. On the smaller ships at least. Alfeathers is currently losing on points, with his big ships taking damage. One of the main ships have been destroyed from Alfeathers. Only a single ship remains. He is not able to win. And the first round goes to Exderp on total elimination. This time it's quite close on points, but Xterp has not lost any big ships yet. It seems to be hard for our fighters to get through the large ships Xterp has. Xterp also has superior regeneration due to using a lot of adapters, which can be large and quickly regenerate like a web. Elfheaders mostly only has 2 working large ships left. There is one small one left in addition, but it's gone now. It was a point win to Xterp. Now we have Elfheaders versus Dale. I expect Elfheaders to do well. Dale's frame has already fallen apart. It's gone. And the core can be taken out with Splash, due to the fact Dale did not bring any shields. And the first round goes to Elfheaders. Dale completely fell apart again. And the win goes to Elfheaders. Now we have Reno versus Xterp. True Terran versus Spiralmount. We'll see how Reno can deal with Xterp's ships, but Xterp's ships are quite large, so it's possible the Gatling guns can deal with them. But they are also very fast, so maybe no. Reno has lost all but one cruise missile craft. Oh, Reno managed to take out one of the large ships with his Gatling guns. Reno is currently leading on points. And the first round goes to Reno on points. Reno is currently leading quite well on points, almost by 1,000 points, but he does not seem to be able to deal proper damage right now. Oh, Reno now got a very nice, what is it called? Combo? He managed to take out multiple crafts due to the fact they were trapped between him and the wall. Now we have Reno versus Dill. Dill, once again, like usual, fell apart. The distractors are trying to damage it, but this laser has basically no damage. There is now debris in the way for Reno to fire, and yeah, it's gone. Whiff splash. Again, the dense obsidian itself does not break, but the splash breaks the core very easily. Dill fell apart. Reno is coming in very fast. And he is now unleashing a small barrage of Gatling fire. And the win goes to Reno. And that was the second to last fight. We now have Exterp versus Dill. The last fight of this tournament, I believe. So we initially see Dill falling apart, again, like usual. Exterp's ships are being very aggressive, with one of them basically ramming Dill directly. They do not see Dill as something dangerous to fear. The core section is exposed. And the first round goes to Exterp on elimination. Now Dill has already lost 70% of all of his ship. This one of Exter's ships might have been a bit too aggressive, almost falling apart. The core is taking splash damage. And the core is taken out. The win goes to Exter. And that was the last fight. MGV at first place. I think it was Huawei on second place. And Non-Produce on third place. So, this was a very nice tournament with many competitors, at least compared to last time. Interesting submissions, but we lacked some factions. We did not see any evolved farmers, we did not see any Tumpor, and I think that's it. But other than that, many varied submissions and a lot of good stuff. I see people are becoming a lot more competitive than from the start. So, this was the whole tournament. Thanks for watching and see you next time.